from WCIA 3 with your hosts Glenn Kinley, Courtney Lane Brewer, and Tristan Thomas. This is the SEPQ Your Illini Nation WCIA 3-in-1 podcast.
Hey, welcome in. It's the WCIA Your Illini Nation WCIA 3-in-1 podcast. I'm Glenn Kinley. Tristan Thomas with me today. We got an exciting time of year, man. I feel like last week, the end of middle end of last week, into this week has been, oh boy.
Yeah. Once Illinois football camp gets going, then you know kind of the whole thing is on the horizon. We'll be going to high school practices before we know it. Counting the days to week one. That first week is going to be wild. And then we're off and running with fall, and then in the winter, and then we're just rolling from there.
Oh, I mean, we had fall camp start for Illinois football. If you keep up with our coverage, you've seen plenty of coverage on that. And then we also had like an availability with the men's basketball team at Illinois. We're talking to the women's basketball team when we record this. We'll be talking to them tomorrow. We had Big Ten volleyball media days, and so and that's not, like you mentioned, high school football practice starts next week, and we're tracking EIU, right? And we're trying to get over to Milliken they got a new coach this year, so like I'm not gonna lie, and it's what I signed up for. This is not a complaint. I love the grind, but the last week and a half I've been like, oh boy, buckle in here.
You get used to the summer where it's
right.
really chill. You really are doing your own stuff, filling the time to some extent, right? And then now we get back to okay, here's all the things you got to be at, all the Illinois stuff, practices, availabilities, practices, and again, rinse and repeat, and then off with week one, and it'll be here before we know it.
Yeah, no kidding. So we've been talking a lot about fall camp. Check out our coverage online, on air. If you're watching this on the Plus app, we appreciate it, and you can see lots of our coverage there. You can also watch our newscast there, 6 and 10. We do sports every day of the week. And so check out our coverage there on that app. Go to our website, WCIA.com. I'm going to brag a little bit, Tristan. I think our coverage this fall has been really quality, valuable, and I don't say that just to flex, but what I mean by that is like we haven't just been showing up and being like, okay, Caden Fagan talked today, so we'll put something in the show from Caden.
Yeah.
I feel like we've actually dug into some interesting storylines and done kind of this unique balance of personal storylines of this is what he went through, this is what the emotions were, this is how they're feeling, and that stuff's important. People want to hear that stuff. And then also the who's going to catch the passes from Luke Altmaier, who's going to return the kickoffs, like balancing this act of information and emotion, if that makes sense.
Balance of human interest and picking up on, hey, that's interesting. That's an angle we haven't touched on before. Look, we know Illinois, the hype for this season is at a fever pitch, and it's probably only going to grow. Just had announced today the first sellout of the year, Ohio State, expecting more to come there. But look, we know this team's going to be good. They got a lot of guys back. Certainly the receiver room is the one we've been talking about of who's going to fill that. That's the biggest unknown. But even though it's a lot of guys coming back, there's still a lot of unique angles, interesting things to get into with this team. Some guys back from injury, Dylan Rosiak, and the dynamics of some of these guys coming back, and then how does that adjust what was kind of in place at the end of the season last year. You bring back a Caden Fagan, I guess he can slide into the Josh McCray role essentially because he's gone to Georgia. But then it's just going to be interesting to see how all those reps really work out once you get into week one and see what it really looks like as a whole.
Absolutely. I think depth is kind of the name of the game for Illinois in a number of spots, specifically the wide receiver spot. We've talked about that, and we will talk about that more as there is no Pat and Zakari, but maybe instead of two of those guys, you have 6 guys that you feel like are reliable options, even if they may not be game breakers, or maybe they are. We haven't seen it yet. We don't know yet. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. But you have Hudson Clement, you have Justin Bowick, you have Malik Elzy. I think Malik Elzy is a guy we've heard. Yeah, and they're pretty. The coaches and players alike are pretty. I don't know if professional is the right word, or careful with what they say. They're not going to say, well, this is our number 1 wide receiver. 1, because they don't want to give that away to opponents.
Yeah, why would you?
And 2, because the coach is like, I'm going to make another guy mad if I say this guy's better or whatever. So, again, that's exactly, why would they?
Yeah.
But Malik Elzy's been a guy that I feel like here and there, his name just gets dropped in there, or you can tell when their face lights up, You can tell when they say, oh, yeah, that guy's been great, versus, oh, Malik Elzy, he's been great.
The opportunity is out there for Malik on the outside because there's a lot of, traditional kind of slot guys guys you can get the ball in space and they can go work. Colin Dixon, Hank Beatty, but then you got those two jump ball type guys, and Pat Bryant and Zachary Franklin could do that too. But is a Justin Bowick going to do that? Is a Malik Elzy going to do that? Those two guys haven't really had the opportunity. We talk about pass catchers, Cole Rusk for sure.
Right.
You just think wide receivers, but he's in there to be a pass catching tight end. So what does he add to the team? Week one, we're going to be counting. Okay, who's got first quarter? Who's got all the catches? Halftime, who's got all the catches? I remember the EIU game last year. We saw a touchdown from Malik Elzy, and not a whole lot the rest of the year. Does that kind of reemerge? Was that a preview of this season?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's interesting, and I think you beat me to it on not just the wide receivers, the running backs, the tight ends, the DBs are similar. That you feel like there's a good amount of depth there. I think you could have this year in 12 regular season games, because we don't know how many total games they'll play. It could be 13, it could be 15, it could be 14, whatever it may be. In 12 regular season games, you might have 6 different guys who are your leading receiver for that game. Yeah. And by that, I mean it might be Justin Bowick one week, Hank Beatty one week. It might be Kapka Jones one week. Yeah. It might be Tanner Arkin. Tanner Arkin, yes. Or, a number of those tight ends. And so it'll be interesting to see. And same thing with the running back. Who's your leading rusher that week? We might see – we're on year 2 of Khalil Valentine. So we might see a week where he has 10 carries instead of 4, or 12 instead of 4 or something.
I mean, you hit on a lot of the positions that are interesting. But, I mean, we talked to Malachi Hood today, and that got me thinking about, especially inside linebacker, like, okay, Dylan Rosiak back, Malachi Hood back, Kanena Odeluga back. And then you have, you bring in Ish Kante, a highly touted JUCO guy.
Like the top JUCO linebacker in the country, I think.
Then you look at Grant Bierman and his pedigree and the talent he's got. Just so many options there, and you can do. It allows Aaron Henry to do some cool stuff with different packages. This guy's better at pass coverage. Sub him in, and then maybe Grant Bierman's more of a run stuffer. You can bring him in on short yardage. I don't know, but a lot of just a lot of depth and pieces to work with. Dylan Rosiak, you expect to be your signal caller, Mike linebacker back from injury, and that's a good piece to have for defense as well.
That's valuable. Like the depth is huge, right?
Yeah.
I also think, and please don't take this the wrong way, folks. I'm not saying Illinois doesn't have that. Maybe we don't know who exactly it is yet. It helps to have a star, right? Like a game breaker. And Gabe Akis has kind of shown that. I think, from what we've heard from coaches and players, that it sounds like Caden Fagan they thought was maybe on the cusp of getting there. And he had a good – we were at Penn State when he was there. He had some good runs there against a really good defense. But I'll go back, and I try not to talk about my Wildcats of Kansas State too often on here. But when I was covering K-State – the year they won the Big 12 championship, they had Felix Anyudike-Uzama, say that 5 times fast. The defensive end, he was a first-round draft pick to the Chiefs. And then they had Deuce Vaughn. Okay, if you're not familiar, go look up some Deuce Vaughn YouTube highlights. But those two guys were just game breakers. If you didn't have a guy who could block Felix, he was going to have 6 sacks. And if you let Deuce Vaughn get the edge, he was going to run for 180 yards and 3 touchdowns. Yeah. And the next year, same thing maybe. You could say, well, we had a lot more depth on the D line, but they didn't have a guy who could just make your day miserable as an offensive coordinator. And so I think Illinois needs to establish who some of those guys are. Not that having 6 guys who are good that's great, but you need to have 1 or 2 guys who are on that next level of they will ruin the day for the other team.
Pat Bryant made some plays kind of like that where maybe Rutgers was in a scenario of, hey, they've done the things they needed to do to win the game. But they got the ball to Pat Bryant at the 30-yard line, and he just went and made a play. But, some more of those guys that it's just, like, blatantly obvious that, like, most guys can't, like, do that.
Right.
And, Caden Fagan was on that freaks list last year, certainly a talented guy. I mean, you can see more of that from Xavier Scott, I think, back to the Kansas game.
Right, yep, he did that. You're absolutely right, yep.
And
Gabe, can Gabe do that?
Yeah.
And we've seen some of that, like, just gamer from Luke a little bit, right? And so is it Luke of, all right, we need this one. I'm going to take – we know it seems like he might want to run a little bit more this year. I don't know if they'll let him or not, but will Luke say, all right, we're going to get this one. I don't care how we get it. I'll get it myself. We're going to go do it. So it's going to be interesting to see. Again, the depth is a great thing, but having a guy to call game and be like, you're toast. Sorry. Yeah. At the end of the day, it comes down to we have this guy on our team and you don't. That's the type of guy that you want. And like we saw that going back to Penn State, we're talking about Cadence, but like Abdul Carter, and Tyler Warren, maker. Those two guys on the two sides of the ball last year were like, these dudes are pretty dang good, and there was just no denying it. So, and Pat Bryant was like that, right? Like against Purdue or Nebraska or whatever. It was like when you knew the ball was going to him and you still couldn't stop him, right? Yeah. And you need that. Or the D lineman who we're going to double team him because we know he's going to get home on this one, and he still does. Like something like that. Yeah. It's a game changer.
A lot of good all around the field, but do you have someone who's great, like truly difference making? That could make a difference in some of these close games where I think Illini fans are going into a lot of these games, hey, we feel good about our chances. Every Sunday you can wake up and think Illinois could conceivably win.
Right.
Most games probably you think you should win, but will there be someone to make a difference? Will they make the plays in the clutch moments like they did so many times last year that could turn it from a 7-win season back to another 10-win season? I don't know. That's gonna be a big question.
Tristan, I just realized I think my shot might be like a little bit tighter.
Yeah.
I zoomed out too far on yours, or maybe zoomed in too far on mine. So people are like, "Man, Glenn got bigger or something, or did Tristan shrink?" I think I might either just be sitting closer to the. I'm not going to mess with it now because I'm worried. I'm still getting used to the technology up here in our podcast studio.
I'm afraid of the camera. I'm shrinking away.
If you keep scooting back slowly throughout the whole episode, and by the end you'll just be a little tiny dot back there. We're learning more about a number of groups, and one thing we should mention is J.C. Davis out right now. Let's see, this will air on Friday, so he'll be out. If you're listening on Friday, the 8th, he's expected to be out this past week. He was out, and then be out part of or all of next week, and be back for 2 weeks is the goal. Be back for 2 weeks. It's plantar fasciitis in his foot. B talked about it and didn't seem overly concerned about it, and I got the impression. I mean, he's usually pretty straight up of, this guy's going to miss some time.
You say, okay, J.C. Davis was out of practice. He wasn't full go rodeo, as Bielema likes to say, but
he was out. He was there. He was in a booth,
doing some stuff, doing some of the
that's a good
ropes.
clarification.
He was out there in some sort of
moving
capacity.
around and
he wasn't in street clothes, but. Experienced guy, managing his body. I mean, you see in NFL training camp, right? Like guys are just out,
right?
They're resting up, healing this nick and bruise and plantar fasciitis in this case. It sounds worse maybe than it is. I don't know. I hear that and I think like stress fracture.
Right.
But
it
doesn't sound like that's what it is.
Again, he didn't seem overly concerned about it. That. Go back to depth. That's certainly a position where Illinois, and that's something you see a lot of on the O-line is not just at Illinois in general. I'm saying you say, man, we got all 5 starters coming back, but O-line is one of the spots where not all game, every game, but most of the time your starters are going to play, right?
Yeah.
Whereas a few receivers might rotate in and out, a few DNs might rotate, but usually your O-linemen, these are our starting 5 O-linemen. And so with that, you return 5 guys. But then that usually means the next 5 or whatever number haven't played that much. Now Illinois got a couple guys on the portal and Knappich and Knappich, and they got those couple guys on the portal. So they got guys who have played, but they also have a lot of guys who aren't super experienced on that O-line who they might feel good about, but just haven't played Big Ten football games.
And I think you talk about the depth of the offensive line. There's not a scenario where they're asking a true freshman to play. A lot of things would have to happen for a true freshman to slide in.
Right.
And it's not like they have some 5-star, highly touted guy who's like, I got to get in the field right away. And I think that's what you want in the Big Ten, right? You've seen Illinois teams at the past.
Especially at that position, right?
I mean, you talk about it early in Lovie Smith's tenure. Like, it was a lot of freshmen coming in right away and playing, which in turn was sort of a sell in recruiting. But also, these guys, you want grown men up front. And guys who can come here, work with Tank and get in the weight room for 2-3 years, and then you're calling upon them to get on the field. And that's what most of this offensive line group is. Experienced guys, battle tested guys who have the strength and have been in a college weight room for years.
Yeah.
And that's what made him so successful last year.
You feel a whole lot better about a guy going out there, even if he hasn't played in Big Ten games, and saying, well, he's played in big games elsewhere, 1 or 2. He hasn't played in Big Ten games, but he's been, he's been learning from J.C. Davis or Josh Gesky or whoever it is for 3 years now. You feel better about that than a guy who you say, well, he wasn't too bad in the spring when he got here, right?
Like if he adds 50 pounds,
that's
maybe,
a different beast, right? So, did we miss anything? I mean, I say, did we miss anything? We could talk up here for a couple hours about fall camp. Was there anything else that has jumped out at you at fall camp that you feel like we should talk about?
I'll say what's tough about when we're allowed in at practice.
Right.
You don't see a lot of the one-on-one. You see a lot of individual drills, guys running around. I can say, hey, Justin Boak looks good.
He looks fast, right?
I'm not seeing him on a DV, so
right.
it's tough to see. But, yeah, a lot of talent in that receiver room, a lot of talent out there on the field. It's just going to be, does that translate to the games? Does that coalesce into a team? We don't know.
Yeah, and the kick return spot is another one we've kind of been keeping an eye on because Kenari Wilcher was back there for a lot of those last year. Illinois doesn't return a ton of kicks, so maybe if you're a fan, you're like, I'm not losing sleep over who they pick there. I saw somebody on social media saying, in my reply, saying they didn't want Aiden Lawford back there, and at first I was like, hold on, I think Aiden would be all right back there. Yeah. And then they were like, because I don't want him to get hurt on kick return. So then I was like, okay, well, I see your point more now.
Can you name the last Illinois player to return a punt for a touchdown?
I actually thought about, I didn't know the right way to word it, but I thought about asking Hank about, he had so many good returns, but never took one all the way. I wanted to ask him about wanting to get in the end zone, but no.
I'm pretty sure it goes back to the Tim Beckman era, V'Angelo Bentley.
Really?
Corner, return guy.
Okay, we're going to take a break here, but as I said, tons of coverage online if you've missed it, WCIA.com. It's all free there. Some really good stuff. I don't say that to sound conceited or anything. I think that our coverage has been valuable, and I hope it's been valuable. So we'll take a break here. We're going to talk a little bit of Illini basketball on the other side of this quick timeout. If you listen on Spotify, it will be about a 2-second break. All right, Tristan, let's talk Illini hoops. I guess you would say we've gotten good news recently on that front in that David Mirkovic is on campus. That's a great sign, the best sign. He's here. Yeah. We don't know for sure. I don't think. Correct me if I'm wrong. We haven't gotten official confirmation that he has joined practice or has.
I don't think you can until the fall.
Right. Okay. Probably when classes start, something like that. And so we don't know that for sure, but we know that he, via social media, we've seen that he is in Champaign, which is a great sign. And then Mihajlo Petrovic, the point guard, has now been announced officially by Illinois. So we've known about this commitment for several months, and Brad has said when we talked to him that he didn't seem concerned about him getting here or anything, but the longer that we waited and you didn't get the press release in your inbox with a quote from Brad and actually add him to the roster on the official athletics website, when that stuff doesn't happen for a while, you start to be like, all right, we're not concerned.
Yeah.
Right?
The longer it goes on, the more
you're to just kind of wonder, right? And so he's been announced, as far as we know, at the time we're recording this on Wednesday the 6th. Mihajlo is not on campus, but again, Brett hasn't expressed, at least to us, any reason to believe that he won't get to campus.
Number 77.
77, Mihajlo Petrovic, the point guard, 77. That's a new one. I find it interesting, though.
David Mirkovic rocking the 0.
I feel like that's fitting. I don't know why I say that, but it feels right to me.
I mean, Terrence Shannon.
Yeah, big shoes to fill there for David. But you know what I mean? Just a big guy. A big body.
Kind of stretch big a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels right for David. I wasn't thinking of Terrence when I said it feels right, but I don't know. It just feels like a good fit. What other numbers we got on there? Zavonamir is wearing.
Z's wearing 44.
44. Okay.
I think that's been his number.
Okay.
Keaton Wagler is 23.
Okay. A little MJ action for Keaton.
Yeah. Aaron Jordan action.
I don't believe. Do we have any number changes?
I don't see any. Kylan's 4, Ben's 3, AJ Red's 5.
What about Jake Davis?
15.
15. Is that what he wore last year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jason Jackson is 31. Brandon Lee is number 1.
Okay. Interesting.
And Stojakovic is number 2.
And Ty's number hasn't changed.
Ty's 20. Yes.
Okay. This has been your number breakdown, brought to you by
Number takes.
Yeah, you like the Cubs radio uniform descriptions brought to you by. But yeah, as we get close to the season, we will certainly iron out more. I think that probably Tomislav Ivicic is in for a jump from his first year of college basketball. And maybe I'm stating the obvious there, but I was going through and watching some old video that we shot from when he first got to campus, and part of this may have been when he was sick too. So I don't know. Yeah. But he looks so much fuller now. You know what I mean? He was so skinny, man. Yeah. And that's how Z kind of looks. Z's still a little bit skinnier. I think he's working with Fletch, I'm sure, and we'll probably add weight from when we're talking about this to when that season opener is. But I think Tommy could be one of the best bigs in the Big Ten. I mean, I think he could be in for something special. And him and Kylan seem to have a pretty cool connection, which your point guard and your big guy having a good connection certainly doesn't hurt anything.
Yeah, I mean, when you saw him face, some more physical bigs, the Michigan States of the world, the Marylands of the world, that's when, inside it was kind of a struggle. He was always able to stretch the floor, but just having a little bit more beef in there and just be more mass that the defense has to worry about, plus the skill and shooters everywhere, that's got to help. Right?
His ability to pass the ball. I think Illinois is hoping that the law of averages, or whatever you want to call it, prevails for their shooting, because Brad has said time and time again that he thinks they're really great shooters and just didn't hit enough shots last year. We talked to Ben, we talked to Kylan. Those guys both feel like they have a lot more confidence in their shot going forward. Maybe something that Ben talked about that was interesting, I think, to you and I both. We've talked about this off air. But this idea that, if you're not hitting shots, it's not about just trying harder. Right? If you don't understand the defense you're running, you better get in the film room and you better figure out how that defense is working. Mm-hmm. If you're missing shot, it probably isn't because you don't understand how to shoot the ball.
These guys are putting up a lot of reps every day. You have to do that to be, considered a shooter at this level. They've got all the metrics, the NOAA system that helps them break down where the ball is going, wherever. But sometimes there's a mental element to it of I think about us writing scripts or writing a web story. Sometimes I just can't write, I can't think, and you could stay here and just hammer away at it. But sometimes you need to just go away, get your mind in a different element, and then you come back and it's a lot easier. And I think there's some wisdom in that.
Yeah, certainly. And I think it's about sometimes what you tell yourself too, right? I mean, maybe I'm oversimplifying it, but if you go 0 for 6 and then you're I got to stay here and put up 1,000 shots because I went 0 for 6. I can't shoot. I can't hit anything. I can't hit a dang shot. Once we get in the game and there's a defender fire, I cannot make a shot. And now it might be true because you've kept saying it, And I'm not saying that was the case for them, but I think sometimes just saying, all right, they weren't falling today. They'll fall tomorrow, and it can be that simple. I'm not suggesting they don't put up the reps and they will, whether or not I suggested it.
Trust your preparation, trust your what you've done and the work you've done to get to that point. These guys have certainly done that, but then also Kylan talked about looking at film and seeing some stuff wrong with what was it, his base, or
I think he said he was a little bit wider last year at Illinois than he was when he was at Arizona, so kind of getting a little bit more narrow, and then the arc on his shot. I can't remember. Do you remember which way he said? I think he was putting more arc on it at Arizona. I could be wrong on that. Maybe it was the other way around. But the arc and his base, his feet as far as width of his jumper. So he had went back and watched. I think Kylan just lives in the film room, man. We talked about that before the NCAA tournament, of him watching film of the Xavier guys and knowing who he needed to shut down and how he was going to shut them down. And so it sounds like he watches plenty of his own film as well. And so, and he's a confident cat going into this year.
No doubt about it. And coming back another year, he's sliding into that fan favorite role. He's from Champaign. You already give yourself that, but the passion he plays with, he's getting that defensive stopper fan favorite kind of thing that a Trent Frazier had at Illinois, and Andres Feliz. Guys that are just dogs on the ball. Right. And got the other opposing point guard comes in averaging 20 a game or whatever, and just Kylan locks him down. That's Brad Underwood. That's everyday guy stuff, and that's stuff fans love too.
It absolutely is. Yeah, Kylan, I think, loves playing defense, and you can't always make guys love that, right? But he loves playing defense. He loves getting stops. He kind of has a Luke Altmaier feel to him as far as the swagger and kind of confidence, even when they're talking to us, in that just feels really. I keep saying confident over and over, but confident in what he's saying and the answers that he's giving us, and he's not questioning himself. And yeah, I can do this. Yeah, I'm going to lead this team. No, we're not going to put up with this. Like stuff like that. And there is no shying away from that stuff for him right now.
And don't forget, I remember after the Iowa game in the Big Ten tournament, asking Kylan about being left off the all-defensive team, the Big Ten. He's like, yeah, that was disrespectful. I really didn't like that. And so Kylan Boswell with an extra chip on his shoulder.
Fuel in the fire, yeah.
What was that? Was it Corey Parker today? 2 chips on your shoulder?
Yeah, 2 chips on yeah. A chip on each shoulder. Yes.
Yeah. That's a scary thought for defenses going against Kylan Boswell.
Absolutely. We're going to take our second commercial break here, and then we'll come back and wrap up the show for you. All right, we're going to wrap it up here. We don't have much else for you. A ton more fall camp coverage is on our website, WCIA.com, 6 and 10 every single night, 5:30 and 10 on Sundays. If you want to actually watch our newscast, and there's some good stuff there. But we appreciate you tuning in. We'll have lots more fall camp coverage. Tentatively, the 26th of August is when we're planning to roll out our preseason special on air. Of course, you can watch it through the app because you can watch all of our newscasts through the app. But tentatively, 26th of August when we'll do our 30-minute everything Illini football preseason. We'll try to get some interviews in there. We will get some interviews in there and all that good stuff. But are we good? Call it on this one?
Yeah, then we'll get rolling with the EIU season opener on Thursday. Then that Friday will be the Illinois opener. First Friday Football Fever.
High school football practice starts next week. Yeah,
we're rolling from there.
But probably by the time you're watching this, probably this week. So yeah, we will have a wide variety of coverage. We'll try to make it all as high quality as possible, and we're going to bring you tons of it. I can tell you that. We're going to interview a lot of people and hold up a lot of microphones throughout the next several months. Thanks for listening or watching or tuning in. However you did, we appreciate it. We'll see you next week.